freaking first cut. Golly. Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, and this is your recap episode for this week's Wells Fargo Championship. Joining me to break it all down, Greg DuCharme. Hello, Greg.
What's going on, Rick? One last crack at it, just the two of us here. Been a fun week.
Yeah.
And this is a fun day. I mean, I guess I got to say, what a week.
What a week. And it might not have ended in the way we thought it was going to end, but let's see how it started. And Greg, we'll just talk about the scoring conditions for this Sunday. You know, the pins were in a little bit more difficult spot. The golf course played a half shot over par, which was the second most difficult of the week and nearly a shot and a half more difficult than Saturday. So there were a couple of low scores out there, but not nearly as prevalent as they were on moving day.
No, and especially in the morning, it was a lot windier as well. Difficult for players to get the right distance. There was a lot, more challenging caddy discussions. And because those hole locations were on the edges near a lot of runoffs and roll-offs, players had to hit really good shots to 30 feet a lot more often. So it was a much more difficult day, especially early on. And, by the time the wind, it seemed, the sun kind of came out a little more, wind died down a little bit more. And some players were able to get it going, but those hole locations are hard to hide.
They certainly are. Now, no real problems from Denny McCarthy early on Sunday. He made bogey on the first and quickly turned it around. He made birdie on 4, birdie on 6, eagle on 7, added 2 more on his second 9. It was a 5 under 66. He ended up finishing 9 under par. Greg, I look at his week: 71, 67, 71, 66. He's going to rue those 71s a bit, especially because Saturday's 71 was losing quite a bit to the field.
Yes. Very difficult day, disappointing day on Saturday, but made up for it today. And I'll tell you, Rick, he didn't do this the way you would typically see a Denny McCarthy 66. I mean, all of those circles, whether they're birdies or eagles, every single one of them was inside of 6 feet. Which is pretty cool. I mean, he started flagging and he missed a couple inside of 10 feet. So he had a real opportunity to take this one really low. He made, I think the longest putt he made was about 19 feet. But ultimately this was a great day of iron play for Denny McCarthy and was able to really give himself some easy birdies. Even an easy, I mean, that shot into 7 was sweet. A tap-in eagle pretty much is really nice.
Certainly is. Not that I would know from experience. Denny McCarthy first in the field in strokes gained approach on Sunday, only 23rd in putting. This guy stinks at putting. Could really roll the rock a little bit better. Denny McCarthy gave the blueprint to KH Lee, and this was really kind of like the next best round, right? You got the 5 under 66 from Denny was 2 shots better than any other round on the golf course on Sunday. KH Lee, we joked about it on Saturday, kind of getting himself in form for a chance at a three-peat next week. And yeah, that's kind of exactly what he's doing. A 3 under round of 68, no bogeys on the card, and he's going to head to his favorite place on the PGA Tour schedule.
No bogeys is great for KH Lee. That was a different round than what we saw on Friday. Remember, I mean, I really liked what I saw out of him on Friday, but this round was not the same ball striking. He had to scramble a whole lot more, which perhaps some of that is the difficulty of the hole locations, the difficulty of the wind. But all in all, he was able to make the saves when he had to. He just didn't give himself as many opportunities as, say, a Denny McCarthy. So 68 was really a really good score considering the way he played. He got a lot out of his round today. But when you look kind of a little wider view at him for the week, he had 55 greens at regulation, which is a great sign. Was 27th in strokes gained approach and led the field today in strokes gained putting and ended up 4th for the week. That's going to be a really important thing next week. He had 55 greens this week. Next week, you're going to see a lot of players hitting 60 or more. And if he wants a three-peat, he's going to have to be one of them.
Craig, was it last year at TPC Craig Ranch that you said that Corey Connors was going to hit 66 greens in regulation? Do you remember that?
Yes, I don't think so. This might have been. Was it like?
Because they're huge greens. I know why you like. I get.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, maybe.
It might have been. I think it. For some reason, I feel like it was the Olympics.
He missed like 7 on Thursday. And
yeah, it was over right away. Over immediately. But hey, sometimes you got to fire out a hot take.
Listen, I appreciate it, and it's still giving us content till this day, so it's all good. Throw it to you, Josh. Who do you want to talk about next? Oh boy, this is a tough scene. Mm-hmm.
He's
Rickie
away.
Fowler.
Oh.
That was the setup. Yeah, Rickie Fowler. Yes, that's right. Rickie goes 68-69 on the weekend. Includes actually Greg bogeys on both 16 and 17, but a T14 for Rickie, and the good play continues. He has not missed a cut since Las Vegas. He has piled up top 20, top 15 finishes since then. I don't know if we have officially declared it at any point, but I think it's fair to declare Rickie's back.
Yes, he is back. And I would argue he's been back for a little while, right? Rickie, even when he was playing really well, was not a guy who regularly won on the PGA Tour. I mean, 5 wins total in a pretty long career. He got started in 2010. So it's not like in order for Rickie to be back, he's got to win. But this is the kind of performance that we saw from Rickie Fowler when he's making Ryder Cup teams and President's Cup teams and finishing top 5 in all 4 majors. It's a really well-rounded game. And while today he didn't hit the ball as well as he had earlier in the week, or has been so far this year, only hit 10 greens today, he was able to make up for a lot of that with his putting. This for the week as a whole, he led the field in scrambling, was 10th in strokes gained putting, and 4th for the day. So look, there's a lot of ways Rickie Fowler can attack a golf course. He just hasn't quite put it all together yet to give us that really low round, which I didn't think was going to be necessary. I didn't think at the beginning of the week you'd have to shoot a 63 or 64 like Xander and Wyndham Clark did in order to contend. And I thought that was a really good thing for Rickie because we could get a performance like this. I just thought it would get him a little closer to the lead.
And to be clear, him putting well again, I think is a really good sign. I thought one of the bigger concerns, like 2 years ago when he was going through the swing changes and everything else, is he lost the putter for an extended period and he was trying a new flat stick seemingly every single week. And when you get away from your DNA like that, it is a really big concern. And a lot of guys take quite often to get it back. Statistically, he's putting well again. I don't mind, I don't always love seeing a guy gain I gained 5 strokes putting for the week, but that's Rickie's DNA. It's all good in this scenario.
Right. It's a good thing when Rickie Fowler does that. But it's also, he starts to lose it with the golf swing and loses it with the putter at the same time. And I don't think that can be ignored. I think he put a lot of pressure on his putter when he started to hit the ball poorly. And when he started to miss a lot of greens, when he didn't give himself birdie looks, he's always putting with his back against the wall. And I think that affected his statistics. So, I know he went to this new putter that has really worked well for him, but I do feel like Rickie's putting was a result of the struggles tee to green. And as that stuff started to come back, all of a sudden his abilities with the putter kind of reignite.
Reignite is what we are going to do with this conversation and talk about the guys at the top of the leaderboard. But first, we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners.
Jean-Luc, this is the end, my friend.
We will have vengeance.
I'm reluctant to ask you all to face this threat,
But I need you.
let's face this together.
Survival. Human nature, pal.
Engage!
And we're back. Now, Let's talk a little bit about Adam Scott. He ends up finishing T5, 11 under, and Sunday's final round, Greg, says even par, but it was a lot more eventful than that. 3 birdies, 2 bogeys on the front, 2 birdies, 3 bogeys on the back. So lots of squares and circles, but you add it all up, it's a 71 for Adam Scott.
It's 71 for Adam Scott. Some, disappointing mistakes today. I thought he was off the green on a couple of occasions and hit putter from kind of a ways away. I mean, it was like he was playing a British Open at times. And it cost him on 17 when he hit the sprinkler head. And there were a couple of other moments early in the round where, actually Mark had a great call on one, which must have been on. It was on the back 9 a little bit earlier, maybe 13 or so. He had a long putt from the front of the green, and Mark said, "This is a long way to go with that putter," and he ended up coming up short. So there were some disappointing aspects of Adam Scott's game today, and he couldn't really keep any momentum going. Made some birdies, but there were just too many mistakes.
Tyrrell Hatton, I'll tell you what, if you want to get yourself a Tyrrell Hatton golf ball, there are a lot in the bodies of water surrounding Quail Hollow, because every time they showed him picking a golf ball out of the cup, Greg, he was launching it, not backhanding it, not rolling it, like full on, like, I don't even know, like Yasiel Puig, like from the outfield, throwing a guy out at the plate, chucking it into the water,
into the depths.
Yes.
There were, this is a great week for Tyrrell Hatton.
It was a great week.
He got frustrated. It wasn't just throwing the balls in the water, but I mean, he was giving the bunkers a beating too all week long. It seemed like every time he was in a bunker, whether it was a fairway bunker or a greenside bunker, he was smacking the sand after hitting a shot. And look, we laugh this off in a way because it's a Tyrrell being Tyrrell, but when you get him in contention, this stuff comes into full effect, and you really get to watch it a whole lot more. You don't have to watch it on PGA Tour Live, right? It's on the broadcast and it's covered, and he talks about it, and he's animated and frustrated. So it's it was good fun, but really a pretty high quality week from Tyrrell Hatton. This was good stuff.
Yeah, T3, 12 under par, 7 shots off the lead, but that a lot of guys were that far off the lead, and he will be in the field next week and probably be one of the favorites. So someone will keep an eye on there. Okay, let's talk about the big 2 here. The match play situation, the 2-horse race, if you will, here, Greg. And we'll try to take this a little bit chronologically, because this tournament came down to Xander Schauffele and Wyndham Clark, and the first 7 holes were very much in the favor of Xander Schauffele. Xander made birdie on 3 and birdie on 7. Wyndham Clark made a bogey on 1 and a par on 7. That's a par 5. And that is I guess that's a 3-shot swing over the first 7 holes, which actually nudges Xander out in front. And you're thinking, okay, the guy with the pedigree, the top 10 player in the world, has just snatched the lead away from a guy who's never won before on the PGA Tour, and it's over. Wrap it up. Xander Schauffele, another win. Good job. Go home.
Yeah, it looked like that. And yet, ringing in my ears after this takes place is a line Kyle Porter has said before, that Xander's kind of allergic to the lead. And he took the lead on 7. For the first time. And on 8, he has 8 feet for birdie, a great opportunity to really slam the door home, and he misses, and Wyndham makes birdie at 8. And and from that point on, he then 3 putts 9, doesn't take advantage of 10, makes bogey at 11 after short-sided himself. Wyndham did too, and Wyndham got up and down. So as soon as he touched the lead, things kind of went sideways for him. And then once he lost the lead again, he played a little better. So it's fascinating, because the fall down for Xander in this event comes not only after the lead, but with all the scoring holes, with all the opportunities to take this thing. And I can't help but think if he takes advantage of 8, 2 putts 9, takes advantage of 10, that puts a lot of pressure on Wyndham Clark, and Wyndham's performance may have been affected. And he had an opportunity to really, test all this mental work that Wyndham has been doing that's been so well documented this week. He could really have put the pressure on Wyndham and made Wyndham chase Xander instead of allowing Wyndham to battle Wyndham. And I think he missed an opportunity, and it started on 8.
I'm not going to out the person who said this to me, but it's a good line, so I will repeat it. This is not mine, but I will not cite my source. Called Xander Schauffele a professional runner-up, which I thought was dirty and not entirely inaccurate.
Yeah, I understand that. I completely understand it. And there's so much evidence that supports that. Yet he's won 7 times on tour. That's kind of the irony of this situation. But I don't know, Rick. I mean, what is it with him? Is there does he have to be chasing from well back? Like, he's so good. He's just so good.
It is kind of a large enough sample to be like. I also just think that all things considered, Xander Schauffele's PGA Tour career is so bizarre, right? It's how many wins does he have versus how many trophies does he have? How did he get those wins? How did he not get? How many times did he have a situation where he could have, would have, should have? It's just like the whole thing is so bizarre. Not necessarily a bad way, because he's had a phenomenal career and he's probably going to continue to. And then it's like the lack of major championship win, but he's been great at the whole thing is just so bizarre. If you sat down and said, yeah, well, he's one of the top 10 players in the world, but he doesn't win enough, but he's had a phenomenal major championship career, but he's never won one. And, he might have 7 wins or he might have 11, but yeah, like what are we talking about here?
I know it's really hard to understand and dissect, because, part of getting into this situation where you're, what's the line? A professional runner-up?
Yeah.
If you're a professional runner-up, that means you're coming in second place in a lot of these tournaments, right? You're in the conversation a lot. So you don't get the you don't get this, like the old line, best player without a major, right? They're the best player at something. That takes a lot of skill in order to get there. You have to be really good to get into these conversations where you say, well, why doesn't he win more? And when you're talking about somebody with 7 wins and you're saying, why doesn't he win more? It means he's in position a lot. And he's in position more than Cantlay, right? He doesn't have the problem that Cantlay has in major championships, or Sam Burns or Tony Finau or some of these other players who, Tony doesn't belong in that. Exclude Tony's name from that. But like a Sam Burns and a Patrick Cantlay, whose performance seems to, evade them when majors come around. It doesn't for Xander. He just hasn't closed the deal yet. And it seems like he should win more often and doesn't. But there are other players who are in that position a lot less. So it's a hard one to figure out.
The turning point came, as you mentioned, at 8. Wyndham Clark birdies 8. Xander Schauffele misses the birdie putt, makes a par. And that seemed to settle Wyndham, because then he got right back into kind of what we saw on Saturday. He birdies 10, he birdies 12, he birdies 14, he birdies 15. He runs away with this, right? I mean, it was very much a victory lap coming down the Green Mile in a way. I mean, he played the Green Mile like he had a 5-shot lead, and he did. And at the end of the day, it's a 3 under 68. He gets his very first win anywhere in the world. But I was super impressed with the resilience, the ability to kind of see one go down and then reset and take over again.
Even after 8, he has a putt inside of 6 feet on 9 and misses it right there. So that's another opportunity for things to get a little queasy. But again, Xander 3 putts. So there's like this, there's now Wyndham has the opportunity to battle Wyndham. And this is something he's been working on, and staying calm and slowing down. And he never had to chase Xander because of Xander's performance. And if he had, I wonder if things end up differently. But there's nothing Wyndham Clark can do about that. And he had every opportunity to allow this thing to get away. He had every opportunity to fold, and he seemed to step up every time. I thought the up and down at 2 was huge for him. If he starts bogey there, things get going really fast, and I think settled him a little bit. It was still a little shaky. And then all of a sudden he finds his groove, and we see the skill set that we saw earlier in the week come to life on the back 9.
Let's dive a little bit deeper into this Wyndham Clark stuff. So this was PGA Tour event number 134 for him. Gets the first victory anywhere here. And one of the things that we have very much documented over the course of 2023, Greg, is this unbelievable resurgence on the second shot, irons and wedges, and his ability to pad these massive approach numbers. So starting at the Farmers is where he started to gain multiple strokes on approach seemingly every single week. And you mentioned it, basically his top 5 or 6 all-time career approach weeks have been this year, and they've been since then. Well, he's going to add another one to that record because he gained 8.8 strokes on approach. That's a new career high. I mean, again, I joked last night, whatever he found in La Jolla, we need to be bottling, we need to be selling, we got to figure it all out. But this is an unbelievable turnaround. And if he can continue this with his other skills that he already has, the ability to bomb it, the ability to roll the rock, like, that's dangerous.
Yes. And he's stayed on the PGA Tour for this amount of time because of his ability to bomb it and his ability to roll the rock. And what's kept him out of legitimate contention, what's kept him out of any of the conversations we've had about Xander Schauffele or any of these other great players. What's kept him out of the conversations of not winning enough is not contending enough. And he doesn't contend enough because of the iron play. Now all of a sudden he figures that out, and now he's done it down the stretch. And I have to think that's going to go a long way for him. The official number, it's now 6. His 6 best events of the year are his 6 best performances with his irons ever. And you add the RBC Heritage into that, there are 2 in between, right? The Genesis from 2022 and the 2019 3M Open are the only ones in between. So you're talking about 7 of his best 9 have happened this year in 2023. It's absolutely outrageous. And again, I mean, like you said, Rick, we'd love to ask him about what happened to your iron play. And I wonder if this is a mental approach, if this is a strategy game. It's one thing that's evident to me in the strokes gained department. We talked about it with Sung Jae Im last night, I believe, where he led the field in proximity to the hole, but was in the he was like 53rd place or something approaching the green because he made a couple big mistakes. So you can gain strokes by playing smart. And I get the sense that Wyndham is gaining strokes by not losing strokes, and cumulatively over the course of a round, that stuff adds up, and it leads to contention for him.
The other thing is he joined Club 19, which is gaining 19 strokes or more in a single tournament. That has now only been done twice this season. So he gained 19 and a half this week. The only other time this season that it's happened was last week in Mexico. Tony Finau did it. Think about the difference between the field in Mexico last week and the field that Wyndham Clark just did this in this week.
And think about the golf course. right? How much it doesn't take anything away from Tony Finau, but it just highlights what Wyndham Clark did on a major championship level golf course against a major championship level field. He tore him apart. He was by far the best player, with the exception of 5 holes today. It's impressive stuff.
The 19 strokes gained mark has only been achieved on the PGA Tour. This is the 5th time since the start of the 2021 season. So 2 full seasons and then this half of a season. So really incredible stuff. I mean, I guess, what is next for Wyndham, right? I hate it's so unfair to start talking about that conversation immediately after getting your first PGA Tour victory. But I think, Greg, you and I are very bullish, or have been very bullish, on what we've seen in 2023. And if this is not just a hot run with his irons and wedges, and he's now this guy on the second shot, seemingly the sky's the limit.
The more I hear from him, the more I like it. This isn't some, somebody gave me a tip on the range and it clicked, and those things wear off. They're great. I wouldn't shy away from them, but they're not a sign that there are great things to come. But when he talks about the developing of the mental skills, whatever those are that he's working on, the ability to slow down, the awareness that he showed in his press conference last night. I mean, we were on air, but I got to watch it after, and he talked about how fast he gets with his swing, with his pace, with his walking. And that's a level of self-awareness that not a lot of players have. And as you start to put these puzzle pieces together and really understand it, now you're talking about a skill set that is ready to shine through, right? And whatever this skill set is, you can live up to that potential, play to that potential. And it feels like Wyndham Clark he certainly was at that place this week. But what I really like is it's been building toward that all year. So I don't see this as a flash in the pan. I mean, are we going to get an exhale out of Wyndham? Am I going to pick him to win the PGA? I wouldn't be surprised if there was a couple of middling events over his next couple of starts. That wouldn't surprise me at all. It also wouldn't deter me from thinking that you're going to see performances like this much more. Not like this week, but performances like we've seen so far this year leading up to it. I think that's going to become kind of the norm for him.
Wyndham Clark will move to 5th in the FedEx Cup standings. He will move to 31st in the official world golf rankings, and he will be in the Masters for the first time, something he has not done before. And, oh, by the way, how about this, Greg? $3.6 million for Wyndham Clark and the win this week. Do you want to guess, since joining the tour in 2019, playing 133 events before this, what his career earnings were before this week?
400,000. 417,000
for his career.
What?
For his career?
I feel like I heard that on the broadcast. I may have been I'm trying to cheat.
Don't cheat.
No, what were they?
100. So he's been on the tour since 2019. He's kept his tour card, so he's got to make more.
Yeah, right. It's probably 4.6 million.
That's getting better. Yeah, 7.4. So he made 50% of what he's made in his entire career. He made today. That's pretty sick.
That is nice, to say the least.
Wasn't there also something like, okay, Josh is coming in. They said that was his previous biggest check ever was $400.
Okay. Yeah, you know what? I should have done a better job listening to you.
That's okay.
And I did hear
now,
that.
See, if my wife just said something like that, I should have done a better job. Finally, someone has said that to me.
Well, that should make your mistakes, right?
Yeah, right. It's usually me going, I should have listened to you. Yeah. There's a joke that's like, my wife said to me, "You never listen when I talk," and I thought that was a weird way to start a conversation. Which I think is pretty funny.
That is funny.
Anything else on? God, I am so close to calling it the Wyndham Championship every single time. The Wells Fargo Championship. Before I move on to our best bets and one and done.
You could call it the Wyndham Clark Championship.
I
don't know. I guess this last question would be, is this I know it's not a Rickie Fowler or a Rory McIlroy type thing, but, the first wins of Rory coming here, Rickie coming here, Max Homa coming here. It feels like the guys that win here for the first time, it's a significant place to win. And I do think that it's hard to win here with just a flash in the pan.
I was going to say, I'll tell you what, think about the careers of those guys, right? Obviously not
after this.
Correct. Right. You've got to have, and this is, without looking it up, I imagine this is the best field this event has ever had.
I would imagine as well.
Right. So a golf course that asks for a lot, guys that got their first win ended up having and still are having really great careers. And this was the deepest field it's ever seen. I tend to agree that this is a really good sign. It's just weird because we talked about it last night. There hasn't been a lot of these guys that are around for 3 or 4 years, all of a sudden find something. And then is that real or not is basically the question.
Yeah, and to know if that's real, that takes time to figure that out, right? It could be he could have a great season with his iron play, and it could regress again next season. So again, where does that leave us? But this is really significant, and it's been going on for quite a while now. So I'm watching to see, and I'm going to give him a couple of probably a month or so where I'll give him a lot of space. I expect an exhale to some degree. That happens all the time with winners. But I think by the time summer rolls around, you're going to see this kind of Wyndham Clark playing a lot more often.
All right. Well, we will continue this conversation, but we'll do it in the form of our best bets and one and done recap. And we'll also look ahead to next week's AT&T Byron Nelson. But first, we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners.
Get breaking news.
Big news coming out of the NFL today.
Highlights and instant reactions.
The largest final round comeback in Tour Championship history. We're down to the final 4.
I just want to take time to analyze greatness.
Talk winners and losers with a guy who's already a big winner.
CBS Sports HQ. It's all sports all day long.
We'll recap the bets here, and we had an okay week, especially in the best bets department, but here are our matchup, finishing position, and outrights. Nobody had Wyndham Clark, so we whiff on those 8. Greg, you and I found the matchup winners. I had Patrick Cantlay over Rory McIlroy. I got plus money on that, and you had even money on Corey Connors over Keegan Bradley, so 2 green check marks for us.
Yeah, Keegan put together some nice golf. It got a little close there, but Corey Connor's strategy definitely worked out. I like you picking on Rory there, but it's a risky one. There's something to me when I look down that board. I see, Patrick Cantlay's plus money against Rory, but it's Rory.
Yeah. It was scary.
You went for it.
Yeah. It's Sunday night. It's easy to look like a smart guy, but it was very scary on Tuesday when we
and probably Thursday after Rory shoots 68.
Yeah. Yeah, I was a little bit worried about that. Although Cantlay was Cantlay
shot 67.
Yeah, and then never really did much after that, but Rory really struggled over the final 3 rounds. We had 2 finishing position winners. I had Taylor Moore to finish inside the top 40. He did just that, continues to play great golf. And KP had Rickie Fowler to finish inside the top 20. So both of those are winners. This Taylor Moore kid, Greg, my God, he can play.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's, not at a Wyndham Clark level right now, but he's going to be around. He's really fun to watch because he's talented.
Opened with a 66, actually shot 71, 71, 72, but still finished T27. So that top 40 did cash. And we already talked about Rickie Fowler at T14. So that one is all good there. And then look at this. How about our best bets? 3 out of 4 green check marks. KP, the only loser here. He had Cam Young top 20. Cam Young made the cut, but ended up finishing in a tie for 59th. The others were all winners. Fowler, top 20. That was mine. Patrick, no sweat on Taylor Montgomery to miss the cut. That was easy, plus 140. And you had Emiliano Grillo, plus 110 to finish inside the top 40. 3 winners.
Yep, really nice hits there. I mean, Patrick calling Taylor Montgomery a little fraudulent, maybe a little extreme, but he went for it, and it's green now.
Tell you what, by Thursday morning at like 9 a.m., he was 4 or 5 over. So that was never remotely a sweat.
Yeah. It's rare that on Thursday you can look at the leaderboard before noon and say, I told you.
Yeah, Montgomery made 2 doubles in his first 7 holes.
Yeah, it can happen. He's got to work on that ball striking a little bit.
Yeah, he does. Okay, so pretty good week for us. And the one and done, stinking Mark, man. Just can't get rid of this guy. So here are the updated standings. Greg, you had Cam Young. We already talked about that. T59. That was worth to you $44,600.
Yeah, this is what life in the cellar looks like. Struggling in the events where there's a lot of money to be made and not making a lot of money. That's where the separation comes from. It's just it's happened to me all year, so it's disappointing.
Patrick went with Rory McIlroy. He was a lone wolf at a ultimate course for a horse and got a very disappointing $51,222. Getting $51,000 from Rory is a very tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, the swimmies fell off when he threw him threw him in the pool.
I forgot about
that was not a great play. I mean, I get the position, and I'm chirping up from the cellar here. I understand the position. You're trying to make a move, and it's a good opportunity to be a lone wolf, but it's not a good play.
Sia and Kyle also had Cam Young, so they didn't get much either. The fans,
great play though.
Yeah, the fans used Victor Hovland. Victor faded a bit, especially on Sunday. He got them $65,000, so the fans did not earn much there. Kyle M is turning into – that M stands for MVP of this one and done, because Kyle M got $525,000 from Sungjae Im and snapped through the $10 million mark and is now in 3rd place.
That had to win the week, right?
I believe it tied the week. No, it won the week.
That had to win the week. I mean, he's turning into Sungjae Im.
Yeah.
Who we picked this week. Really, really good stuff from Kyle M.
He's been phenomenal. He's been on a great run. I mentioned it earlier. He was making like $1 million on average per start, and he's like not slowing down anytime soon. So good stuff, Kyle M. I had Patrick Cantlay, lone wolf, in 2nd place. He was out fast on Thursday. I was thrilled. Justin Thomas got off to a slow start. Cantlay struggled over the final 3 days, got me $235,000. Mark had Justin Thomas, $353. So I lost $120K in ground to Mark here, where it felt like I was going to be able to make up a little bit of distance.
Yeah. Disappointing for him.
What happened?
Where did he go? He just a couple of 71s in the rounds where you really feel like you could make a move. He just didn't. T21 out of Patrick Cantlay feels like, I don't know. It's like Xander Shaw. I took Xander at Century, and you just feel like, man, I wish I had Patrick Cantlay later on this year. He just didn't hit it good.
So round 1, he gained 2.8 strokes on approach. It was 9th in the field. Phenomenal start. He lost a half a stroke in round 2 on approach, 2.5 in round 3, and 2.2 in round 4. So he lost 4.6, 5 strokes on approach over 3 rounds.
Yeah, not good. Still finished tied 21st.
Yeah, that's the crazy part.
Right, that's a sign of how good his game is. He's one of the few stars that can have shaky approach play and win and contend. And we consider him a great ball striker, even when his iron play isn't really up to the level of some of the best iron players out there. But this was disappointing.
Greg, we will head to Texas not next week. Not literally you and I, but the PGA Tour will head to Texas next week. They're going to go to AT&T Byron Nelson. It'll be the final tune-up before the PGA Championship. The twice defending champion KH Lee is back for more. Scotty Scheffler is in the field. Jordan Spieth is in the field. Tyrrell Hatton, Hideki Matsuyama. I think those are the big names.
Did you say Jordan?
Yes.
Yeah. I think this is going to be a pretty cool event. You got enough heavy hitters here. You know, you're going to see a ton of birdies. Yeah. You're going to see a ton of greens of regulation.
Yeah. Maybe 66 of them from somebody.
Yeah. It would not surprise me. I think there were like 8 guys last year. Not that anybody cares, but I think there were like 8 guys last year who hit 60 greens here. So, there's a lot of birdie opportunities. And the question is, can anybody make more than KH Lee?
Probably not.
It's going to be fun to watch. Seeing Scotty Scheffler in an event like this, there's no guarantee. This is when you get these birdie fests, big names can fall very easily. Anybody can, because you can play great and get lapped, right? Go shoot 4 under and get lapped. That happens. You know
what I think is interesting, and my fake hat tip to these guys, when they released this designated schedule and, the Texas events weren't on there, whether it was the Texas Open or Byron Nelson, basically Scotty Scheffler and Jordan Spieth were like, yeah, we're still going to play those, right? Like even meaning if we have to skip a designated event because we think it's important to, promote golf and be there in our community and stuff like that. And they're living up to it.
Absolutely. And, Jordan especially has already checked the box for the 3 non-designated events that he was responsible to play. I'm not sure where Scotty Scheffler is on that off the top of my head. This might be his 3rd. But anyway, it's good stuff that they're supporting these events. You also have it's the week before a major. Some guys really like to play and the week before. And I do think the new designated schedule has thrown the schedule for individuals in a kind of an odd spot where it's a lot more difficult to plan around just majors when you have designated events to deal with as well.
Scotty played the American Express. So that's 1. And that is the only one. So this will be number 2 for
This will be number 2. Okay. All right. So you'll probably see like a Scottish Open would be my guess.
Scottish Open is not a designated event. Yeah, I guess that makes
right.
Get over there early.
Yeah.
Do a little. Yeah, that makes sense. We will be back next week. Although I am traveling and then heading straight to the PGA Championship. So I'm like out the latter half of next week, but I'll be gearing up at Oak Hill and getting ready, which I'm very, very excited about.
We'll hold the fort down for you, Rick. You'll be missed. We'll try to keep things on the rails, but it usually doesn't go so well when you're gone, which is very rare.
Well, I appreciate it. And I will have some boots on the ground at Oak Hill and hopefully some nice intel, and we'll be rocking and rolling for that week. But yeah, it's, can you believe it? We're a week away from this time next week. We'll be saying next week's the PGA Championship.
Next week is the PGA Championship. We're not there yet. We got a cool event in front of us, but it's close. The second major of the year is right around the corner.
All right. Big thanks to producer Josh, does all the hard work behind the scenes. Big thanks to Greg DuCharme. We rocked it 3 nights in a week. Him and I, very fun stuff. I thoroughly enjoyed it. You can find him on Twitter at TheRealGFD, and you can find me at Rick Run Good. This has been The First Cut. We'll catch you next time.